There's nothing to believe, nothing here to see that's growing wild. Why can't it be as simple as it seems? You're somewhere in between and going wild. Both sides, I say, are really much the same. They can find someone.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of PHM from Pittsburgh. I am your host, Dr. Tony Tarchichi, and I'm a med-peds-trained pediatric hospitalist at UPMC Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh in the Paul C. Gaffney Division of Pediatric Hospital Medicine. The music you heard introing us in is by a band called the Adobe Collective. I hope I said that right. Dr. Timothy Chinnock, I hope I pronounced that right, is a member of the band and is a pediatric hospitalist at Loma Children's Hospital in Southern California. The song you heard is called Nothing There, honestly. In case you like what you hear, believe it or not, the Adobe Collective has a gig at the Connor Burn Pub in Seattle on Saturday night, July 27th. So again, that's the Connor Burn Pub in Seattle, July 27th, Saturday night. The band is the Adobe Collective. The song you just heard was Nothing There, Honestly. Now, if you're a regular on the podcast, you know that this is not how I normally start my episodes. This was from a contest we ran on the Hospital Medicine listserv asking if anybody has musical talent, has a band, and has original music or public domain music to send it in, and we'll use it on these special episodes. So what we're doing here is something very special, so please give me a moment, bear with me to explain it. The episode you're hearing is one of the first in a series for the Pediatric Hospital Medicine National Conference in Seattle, Washington this year. So if you're listening to this, it's July and right now, and boy is it hot, right? This whole thing was an idea from the AAP section on hospital medicine, those who are planning the conference. They approached us and asked us if we could create some special content just for the PHM National Conference, and naturally love the idea. So if you're a regular listener to the podcast and not going to the conference this year, don't worry. You can still listen to everything because I'm releasing it all on the podcast. And this is one of the first two episodes I'm going to release for these special ones. And this one is called What to Do While You're in Seattle. A lot of us are coming to Seattle, and we want to make sure we don't miss anything we really shouldn't miss. Tourist sites, food, music, whatever. And also, what if you're coming with your family and you want kids-friendly stuff to do to occupy them, which is what I'm doing. And if you're not coming to Seattle for the PHM conference this year, you may eventually go there. So this could be helpful for nonetheless. So along those lines, let me introduce my special guests. I'm very fortunate to have Doctors Lynda Ken, Arti Desai, and Elena Griego. Elena, Lynda, and Arti are all in the Division of Hospital Medicine at the University of Washington and Seattle Children's Hospital. Elena is from New Mexico, whereas Lynda and Arti have roots in the Midwest. Go Blue. They've lived in Seattle for 6 to 8 years. Elena has been here since residency, and Lynda and Arti both have young kids at home. They are looking forward to sharing their favorite spots and experiences in the Seattle area with you. So I'm very happy to have them on. So thank you all very much for joining me.
Well, thanks for letting us have an opportunity to chat with you guys.
Yeah, we're super excited that you guys are coming to our city for the conference.
Yeah, it's the best time to come to Seattle for sure.
In July, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Is it less rainy?
Much less rainy. It's pretty guaranteed to be sunny and beautiful the whole time.
Now that we said that, though.
And we're also up north, and so the sun sets around 9 or 10 p.m., so the days are super long and really great weather the whole day.
I never thought that. That sounds great, actually. That really does sound great. For those people listening at home, normally we have CME credit associated with each podcast. We do not have it with this one because this is more just informative, but no CME credit. So where do you all want to start? Should we talk about any tourist sites we should see if we're able to, if we're in Seattle?
Yeah, sure. So for those either coming with family or without family, if this is the first time in Seattle, Pike Place Market down by the water is definitely an awesome place to walk through, and you can literally eat your way through Pike Place Market. So I would definitely go with an empty stomach. I know some of our favorites are Pierogi or Eleanor's yogurt, and Rachel's ginger beer. And then also actually the original Starbucks is down there too. So oftentimes there's, on weekends, there's a long line of people waiting to just get a glimpse into the original Starbucks.
And if you'd rather not stand in line for the original Starbucks, you can snap a quick photo outside and then walk across the street where there's a regular Starbucks, and the line is definitely about half as long, if not shorter.
Yeah.
So,
and I think there's actually even two, right across from Pike Place.
Is that right? That's funny.
Yeah. And there's actually other coffee in Seattle that's not Starbucks that is also very good.
That's also a great place to grab a bowl of clam chowder and kind of get a taste of the Pacific Northwest seafood.
Oh, so is this the place where they do the fish throwing?
It is.
Yeah.
So the best time to catch true fish throwing that isn't being done for show is very early in the morning when the restaurants are actually out buying their fish for the day. But they do tend to do it throughout the day, depending on the crowd that has gathered.
And if you're also visiting friends or want a quick gift for people while you're in Seattle, they have the most gorgeous bouquets of flowers for about $10 to $15. You can get these massive bouquets that are just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. And there's also down actually on the lower level, right below the Pike Place, there is the famous gum wall. They tried to get rid of it all, but I think a couple of years they tried to get rid of it, but it's actually all now back. People, you can contribute your gum or, just make sure don't touch it.
It's disgusting, but really cool.
It sounds both those things. You're exactly right. Disgusting and very cool.
Other things that we would recommend that are walking distance from Seattle to kind of check out in the area, there's, of course, actually, we should probably just start with the main tourist attractions. These include things like the Space Needle that was recently remodeled, the Museum of Pop Culture, which you guys can probably tell me more about, where it's got a lot of info about
Nirvana and Pearl Jam, right? Because those are all Seattle originals.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true.
And the aquarium, the zoo, there's a boat harbor tour. And then, of course, Chihuly Museum is really cool, especially if you're coming here with parents or so on. It has these gorgeous glass sculptures that were created by a local artist, Chihuly, and it's just a great museum to walk through. So you can do all of these things. We recommend getting a city pass for families because it's probably the cheapest way to do most of the main Seattle attractions.
Yeah, especially if you're going to be here for a few days and think you're definitely going to hit like 3 or 4 of those places. That's definitely probably the most cost-efficient way to do it.
Yeah.
What was the name of that museum? Chicolt? I didn't hear it.
It's called the Chihuly Garden and Glass Museum, and it features Dale Chihuly, who's a local artist who does all blown glass. So it's he has exhibits all over the world and chandeliers in hotels all over the world, but this is the only museum that is all him, so it features all of his own exhibits, and is a really incredible thing to see, and it doesn't get old. So it's definitely kind of a unique thing that we happen to have here in Seattle that would come highly recommed, I think, from all of us.
Yeah, all of us.
And all of our parents too.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The little kids.
Yeah, definitely. Just watch your little kids if you're going to go into the museum.
And actually that whole area, isn't there a big park around there? Yeah. And also a splash park. So if it's a nice day, definitely around the Space Needle, the Museum of Pop Culture, Chihuly Museum, Pacific Science Center are all kind of centrally located around Seattle Center. And you can even take the monorail that I think wasn't it built for the World Fair? I don't remember what year, but it basically goes nowhere. It just goes back and forth downtown. So.
And Chihuly is also an indoors and outdoor museum, and so it's just a great place to walk around, and it doesn't take that long to get through it. There's also a great spot to just grab quick bites to eat if you're down in that area within the Armory. They have a bunch of little restaurants, some from more of the famous places around Seattle that have created kind of a second shop in the Armory for that.
Are there any really places you'd recommend in the Armory?
That's a good question.
I've actually never been, so.
I don't know the names of these places. There's a burger joint. We tend to do this when we take our kids to the Children's Museum. We just kind of stop for a quick bite to eat. So,
okay. So think of it like fast food, except for it tends to be like Seattle-based restaurants that have opened kind of
it's like a food
faster version of a food court. Exactly.
Okay. So of all the places you all mentioned, besides the museum, which I think sounds great, what would you say we shouldn't miss when we're down in Seattle?
Yeah. I mean, the stereotypical thing is the Space Needle. I might actually put in a plug for the Skyview Observatory that is actually located in Columbia Tower, which is also downtown. But they have a big observatory at the very top that actually gets you kind of a panoramic view of the city and is higher than the Space Needle. And then you can actually see the Space Needle from afar, which is probably a little cooler than actually going up in it. So the iconic thing to do is to go up in the Space Needle. You can get great views of the Sound as well as all of Seattle and Mount Rainier as long as it's a clear day. But you get all of those views and probably a little more in the Columbia Tower Observatory. So I would recommend that as an option and something that gets you kind of that all-encompassing view of the Pacific Northwest.
The other thing about that place, that's located closer to Pioneer Square, and there's a great Seattle Underground tour that you can do while you're in that area. And basically it just talks about the fact that Seattle was actually built a level lower than it actually is right now, and it takes you through the underground Seattle, and it's just a really well done tour. Again, you just kind of walk through it, and you're basically walking below the street level through these tunnels, and the guides are awesome.
Yeah,
so
they're like
a great experience.
They're all like comic types. And actually down in Pioneer Square too, there's a lot of good restaurants. There's a good like Taylor Shellfish Farms is actually, they have a restaurant down there that you can get fresh oysters.
And Salumi has an awesome kind of sandwich shop with amazing salami type.
And it's at Mario Batali's parents that own Salumi, I think.
Yeah.
What's the name of that restaurant?
Salumi.
Salumi?
But it's not really a restaurant. If you go, be prepared to wait in line, and it's not really, like, you won't want to bring your kids because there's not really anywhere to sit, but you can easily grab food to go and then go to a park or something to eat.
Okay.
So closer down to Pioneer Square, there's also, that's kind of getting you into the area of all the stadiums and the International District. So Asian food is huge in Seattle, and they have a lot of great spots, so we definitely recommend checking out the International District for some food. And then if you're interested in sports and games and checking out the restaurants, unfortunately, our favorite, the Sounders, which is our soccer team, is not in town that weekend, but the Mariners will be playing Detroit all weekend.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's great.
And there's great spots to kind of get to what is it? I can't even tailgate. Oh my God. I've been out of this for so long.
Do you guys not pregame in soccer?
To tailgate before the Mariners game if you want it in that area.
And the stadium's a cool indoor-outdoor, so they usually during the summertime will have the roof open. And has, you can choose to get traditional seats or you can hang out in kind of their outfield area, which just has a huge range of really fantastic restaurants and local beers. And
actually, if you take kids to the Mariners game, you can meet Mariner Moose, so you can go and take a picture with them. There's also actually a playground. Well, no, my 3-year-old loves it. I'm serious. There's a playground that is Seattle Children's sponsored. We'll put in a plug for Seattle Children's.
Yeah.
But
that's great. Inside the ballpark.
Yeah, inside the ballpark. So it's definitely
great.
a place, even if you bring your kids and they're not really wanting to sit for most of the game, which I don't even like sitting for the entire game. It's fun to walk around, grab food, grab a beer.
I mean, that's true. Pirate Stadium is the same. They have a nice, beautiful playground. My kids love it. That's great.
Yeah. Some other things that we talked about that are a little, maybe a little further than the downtown area. So the Seattle Zoo is awesome. And if it does happen to be raining, which I don't think it will be, it's still great to walk around the zoo, and they actually have an indoor play space if you have kids and need an activity to do during the day. That's really fun, aside from just seeing all the cool animals that we have at the zoo. But it's just a great place to walk through with kids.
There's actually a new baby giraffe there.
Oh,
yeah.
There's a baby giraffe.
Yeah, who actually has to wear like AFO type things because it has a orthopedic disease. But I heard from one of my friends it's actually really cute.
Well, that's a baby giraffe, sure.
Another place that is probably a half-hour walk, but if you kind of walk up one of the neighborhoods called Queen Anne, there's a park called Cary Park, and that's where you see the classic iconic pictures of Seattle that were in the show Frasier. But basically, great place if you're a photographer to take panoramic shots of Seattle with Mount Rainier in the background. And on a summer evening, usually it should be pretty crystal clear to take some great photos.
So that's in the Queen Anne section. What was the name of that park?
It's called Cary Park.
Cary Park. Okay.
Yeah, Kery.
Was that also in Sleepless in Seattle? Is that the park they're walking through?
Oh, that's a good point, though.
No, but I don't know about.
Is it Gasworks?
I don't know. But the houseboat actually in Sleepless Seattle is still on the water, and you see it if you take one of the the duck tours.
Oh.
But you can also just walk around Lake Union is where there's a ton of houseboats.
And Gasworks Park
is also featured in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
10 Things I Hate About You. Featured
oh,
there.
really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't
where
know
they do their paintball fight.
That's so funny.
Oh, nice.
So there's a lot of options kind of down in that area that do require either a ride share or taxi or some car transportation option, but that are all pretty accessible. Pretty much everything in Seattle is reachable in about a 20 to 30 minute drive. And if any of the neighborhoods you can get to pretty easily. So nothing is super far out. And usually that's because of traffic.
Unless
it's not LA traffic, but it's, it can be pretty bad.
Yeah, the bridges can be a little tough to navigate, but around Gasworks, so Gasworks is a great place to have a picnic, and just chill out, and you get great views of the city across Lake Union. Ivers is also there. Ivers is IVAR, but it's one of our iconic seafood spots that's also on Lake Union, and again, you can get great views from it, and Elena apparently knows that they have the longest happy hour.
They have a great happy hour because their happy hour starts every day, Monday through Friday, and then the weekend as well, starting at 3 and goes until they close. And so there's no end time, so it's a great place to hit up after the conference or in the evening time. And it includes their outdoor patio, which is quite large and sits right on the lake.
And that's called Ivers, I-V-A-R.
Ivers. There's actually a bunch of Ivers around the city. So the one on Lake Union is called Ivers Salmon House, and then there actually are some other ones down by the wharf and Pike Place Market, and then scattered around town as well. So
even in the airport.
Yep.
Oh.
So you can pick up Ivers pretty much anywhere and get a combination of kind of standard Pacific Northwest fare, any sort of fish, salmon in particular that you would like, and then just standard bar food.
And actually, during the summer, speaking of salmon, the salmon might be running through the locks.
Oh, right.
But even if they aren't, so there's the salmon ladders that are down by the Ballard locks. But it's kind of a fun, very Seattle experience in terms of seeing the boats go through from the lake to the sound. So, the locks between the fresh and the saltwater. But that's a great little area to walk around. And then that is all in the Ballard area where there's a ton of good restaurants, good ice cream place, Salt and Straw is down there from Portland.
And your kids can watch, if the salmon are running, they can watch the salmon kind of climbing up the ladders, making their way from the sound to the lake.
My kids would love that.
That's
cool.
Great.
Yeah, it's really cool.
One other place, just before, not to forget, on Lake Union, that's a fancier option. It's a newer place called Westward that has fire pits outside and just really great oysters. And if you're wanting to get a little fancy or you want to go on a date, that's a beautiful place to go in the evening and check out the sunset and get views of the city.
But I would highly recommend reservations if that is on your list, because it's almost impossible to get a seat there.
Although if you want to just take a drink outside, can't you do that without reservations? Or
you can, but even then you often have to wait.
So Westward, if we have a date or something, we want to do something nice, we can try to make reservations.
There's so many good restaurants. We highly recommend Yelp.
And especially Capitol Hill is probably the neighborhood that has a lot of the best restaurants in Seattle. It's also the closest to the conference center in downtown, and so
it's just up a big hill. So it depends on how willing you are to walk.
Or you could take a Lime bike, because now I think they're all e-bikes actually. I don't know about Pittsburgh, but there's a huge bike share company here, Lime Bike. They're probably in other cities, but they're scattered everywhere. So that's another way to get around from different places.
Yeah. Before I also forget, talking about places in the airport, the place that I always stop at before I get on a plane is there's a Beecher's mac and cheese place, or just Beecher's cheese, and they make the best mac and cheese. So if you're getting on a flight going home after you had an awesome weekend in Seattle, get your mac and cheese before you get home.
Or you can catch Beecher's in Pike Place Market. So that's where their original storefront is. And you can watch them make their cheese curds and sample some of the cheeses there as well.
I'm all about my mac and cheese.
And actually, before I forget, one of the my favorite things to recommend to family or friends visiting, but also that I love to do, is take the Bainbridge Ferry. Because especially if it's a nice day, and as long as you have, I would say 3 hours probably, the Bainbridge Ferry leaves from the waterfront right down below Pike Place Market, and then it goes to this little island called Bainbridge Island, and I would actually recommend walking on. You don't want to actually take your car, because on Bainbridge Island you can actually walk to all the storefronts. There's a small little downtown area. There's a really nice local grocery store if you wanted to grab some food or wine or to take to a park. And then there's also good restaurants and everything. So it's just it's a fun experience. You get to see the Seattle waterfront from, the ferry. It's a very Seattle experience. So
Bainbridge Islands. Okay.
And if that's not up your alley, or if you don't have the time and want to get out on the water a little bit, there is a faster option to just head over to West Seattle via the Sound on the water taxi, which takes off also from kind of that waterfront in downtown Seattle, and it's a quick little ride over to West Seattle, where we have our version of a beach called Alki Beach that you can get to using a bike share option, or there's a cool little restaurant called Marination Station that's right at the port where the water taxi lets off, and that gives you the chance to spend about 20 minutes on the water without having to commit to a couple hours over on the island.
And if you're a runner or want to get some exercise, Alki Beach is just a great flat kind of spot to just get a run in and be able to take in the city while you're doing so.
She emphasizes flat because it's actually a lot more hilly, I feel like, in Seattle than people realize.
Than people realize,
Is that okay? Good to know. So now here's the question. If we're done with the conference for the day, it's been a long day, we want to go out and let's say you have a drink or two with some people we met, friends we've seen, and you all are with us, and we say, okay, you guys decide we have to go somewhere to get a couple drinks close to the conference. Where would you go?
I mean, I think one of the things that's pretty prevalent down around the conference center is a variety of different restaurants by a local restaurateur by the name of Tom Douglas. And he has restaurants all across the city, but a lot of them tend to congregate down there in the downtown area. So there is a Mexican restaurant that he does. There's one called Lola that I think is Greek.
Yeah, it's like Greek, but they also have weekday breakfast, which is there is a pizza joint that does kind of high-end specialty pizzas that aren't, your standard, called Serious Pie, and those are all kind of under the Tom Douglas umbrella, and a lot of them are located right there by the conference center. So they all have both bars and restaurants associated with them where you can grab a quick bite within walking distance. And Pike's Place has a place called Radiator Whiskey. I don't know if you guys have been there. It's really good. I mean, it's a restaurant, but they also have a bar area.
This is probably too much information, but that is where my husband gave me the look when that told me that he was interested.
Is that right?
I have a soft spot for that place.
Well, that's great.
The look.
That's where to go.
How far is Pike's Place walkable from the conference?
Yeah, Pike Place,
10 to 15-minute walk, super easy.
Yeah,
and all downhill there.
You guys have the whiskey shop for the way back up. Yeah, sure.
Exactly. The other thing about where the conference is, so it's a new conference center, and that's actually like a block away from the Seattle Children's Research Institute. But that is kind of where Amazon has exploded in terms of their offices, which also it means that there's an explosion of new restaurants and these kind of like secondary second location places for some of the well-known restaurants. And then there are a lot of new bars in that area. So we would suggest Yelping, but just north of where the conference center is, if you walk 5 to 10 minutes, there's a lot of great places to get a happy hour, like bite or drink at, when you're meeting up with friends in that area.
And that's like considered the South Lake Union area if you're looking, trying to figure out near Amazon.
And then a lot of the hotels actually in the downtown area have rooftop bars. So if you go searching, I'm going to forget off the top of my head, but there's a couple of really nice hotels in the area. I think the Thompson, a lot of those hotels have restaurants or have bars up top that give you kind of that nice outdoor feel, but also have some good drinks and atmospheres for sure.
Okay.
The one thing we definitely want to tell you guys about, just so as you guys might know, Seattle's known for its outdoor activities. There's tons to do outdoors, so if you're making a longer trip with a conference or just want to kind of take a day to explore, there's amazing hiking options, a 30-minute drive from the city that will take you straight up into the Cascade Mountain Range, which is just east of Seattle. If you want to go a lot further, west of Seattle is the Olympic Mountain Range, and there's great camping and hiking spots there. A couple quick options is on Highway 90, there's the Snoqualmie Falls, which is about a 30-minute drive from the city. So if you're into that and really want to get up in the mountains and really explore the Seattle area, bring your hiking shoes. And if you're not so into it but just still want to do some outdoor gear shopping, the REI
one of their flagship stores.
Their flagship store is in Seattle, and it's always a fun kind of place to get some gear.
Okay. Now Mount Rainier is relatively close by to Seattle.
It's not.
I mean, it's like a 2-hour drive
probably.
I mean, it's definitely beautiful. So if you are coming to the Pacific Northwest and making a vacation out of it, it's probably less feasible if you're mostly coming here for the conference and trying to just, get away from.
So yeah, you can definitely get down to do some pretty easy hikes for like a day trip. at Paradise is kind of the main place where there a lot of different small hikes take off from in the national park, and is a really incredible place. It tends to be also incredibly crowded during the summer, and so you just want to budget in extra time for parking and traffic as you get closer to the park.
That's why I wanted to ask you all, because you live in Seattle, so you would know, because Google Maps tells you it's like 2 hours and 3 minutes, but how long would you budget if you were going to go down there?
So it probably only takes that amount of time to drive there, maybe a little bit longer, 2.5. But if you're going to spend time down there, you're probably going to want to spend another 2 or 3 hours hiking around.
You would make a day trip out of it.
Yeah, it would have to be a day trip.
I mean, you may, if you hit some traffic, like down by Tacoma.
But I think that mostly budgets into that.
Oh, with the 2 hours,
it's not too bad.
So if you don't have a whole day, which is what we would recommend if you were going down to Mount Rainier, doing some hikes over in the Central Cascades, which is directly east of Seattle, that's just a 30-minute drive, and again, you can get pretty up in the mountains there, and there's some beautiful hikes there that are a lot more accessible.
There's actually one off of I-90 Franklin Falls that's only probably a mile each way, and it's really easy actually for kids. Like my 3-year-old daughter hikes the entire way down to the falls, and the water's flowing pretty well right now from the falls. It's like a 75-foot waterfall between the east and west of I-90, and I mean it's beautiful, and you can get it done in a half day for sure.
So Franklin Falls, 1 mile. That's good to know.
Yeah. A good resource for kind of hikes locally is the Washington Trails Association. So they'll have a big list, and you can put in like if you want it to be kid friendly, how long you want it to be, how rigorous you want it to be, and you can kind of get a sense of what is available, and they'll kind of give you maps to trailheads and things like that. So
they also have trip reports, and so you can see what the latest conditions were for the trails, and so it's super helpful about like how bad are the roads getting up to the trailhead and stuff like that. They do an awesome job of keeping that up to date.
So what was the name of that? The Washington
Trails Association.
I can just Google that and and it'll come right up. Washington Trails. That's good to know.
Yeah, a lot of these trailheads do require a National Forest pass, though, to park at the trailheads, and I think you can get day passes. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but if people just Google about like a National Forest pass, day pass, you can find.
And then if you're not such an outdoors person and want to get out and experience some of the other things Seattle has to offer, we actually have some pretty big both wine and beer scenes in Seattle or the Seattle area. So if you're looking for good wine, if that's up your alley, there more locally in our what we call the SoDo region, there are more and more wineries from across Washington State. So over in Walla Walla and the kind of eastern side of the state are opening tasting rooms down there. And so you can actually go down and do some wine tasting even in the evenings or in the afternoons after the conference is over. If you want to do a little bit of a bigger trip over to wine country, Woodinville, Washington is about a 20 to 30 minute drive, a little bit northeast of Seattle, and you can actually get out to some of the local vineyards and tasting rooms out there as well. And then if you're into beer, that's the other big thing that we have here in Seattle. There's a ton of microbrews and brewing companies here. And the big areas to do that would be in Fremont and then also in Ballard and Georgetown. They all have a nice little collection of places you can go, and you can take tours or you can just make your own little tour. But there's a ton of different options in all of those locations to kind of get out and enjoy your afternoons.
And if you're feeling a little more adventurous and you like to drink while exercising, you can take a bike out to Woodinville. So there's a huge trail that goes all the way from Seattle to Woodinville where you can bike all the way there, get your wine tasting on, drink some beer. They actually have a brewery out there too.
They closed.
Oh, they closed.
Mm-hmm.
Therever mind.
There's a few
you
breweries
can
out there
drink wine, and then you can bike not so soberly back to Seattle.
So bring your bike helmet if you want to use a bike share.
Yeah, always wear your bike helmet, especially.
Please bring your bike helmet.
Right.
And what was the name of that place you can bike to?
Sorry?
What was the name of that place you can bike to?
It's called Woodinville.
Woodinville is the neighborhood or the town where there's a ton of, there's like hundreds of tasting rooms. So you could literally, if you're really into wine, make a day of wine tasting out there. Yeah. But the Burt Gilman Trail goes actually all the way from Ballard, where you could first start drinking a lot of beer and then bike all the way up north to Woodinville.
It actually goes right by the Fremont Brewery too.
Yeah, and you could actually, and past Kenmore, where there's actually like 4 breweries right along the trail.
It'll be the greatest conference.
The places where you can drink.
Definitely, if you like IPAs, this is definitely the place for IPAs
and red wine.
Yeah, craft beer. Craft beer is definitely in Pacific Northwest.
And then Seattle is obviously the home of Boeing, and so tons of flight-related activities to do in Seattle. So one of the best is the Boeing factory in the Everett Mukilteo area. So it's about a half-hour drive up north, but again, a great place. If you have family visiting while you're at the conference or something, that they can go check out. But the factory is really cool. And then you can also, apparently, Lynda knows this, take a seaplane for not too much money.
So you can definitely spend a lot more money and do a seaplane tour of like the San Juan Islands or over Seattle. But you can also call the day of sometimes and ask if they have any seats, because they have 2 airports, one on Lake Union and one up on the northern tip of Lake Washington. And it's like a 15-minute flight, but it's a seaplane flight, so it's kind of it's a unique experience, and it's like $25, I think. So yeah.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
And if you want to just watch them, you can watch them from the aforementioned Ivers or Westward or Gasworks, and then you can just sit there and watch them take off and land from the lake.
Yeah.
Oh,
which my daughter does every day. And it's also, we just want to mention getting downtown from the airport. There's multiple options. So the probably most reliable is the Link, which is our kind of transit system. And so they have a link that you can get to from the airport, and it'll take you straight downtown. You would get off at Westlake Station. And how long is it? It's probably 25 minutes?
Probably takes about 35 to 40 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's not very fast, but it's cheap.
Convenient.
It's cheap. Like $3 or $4 for a one-way ticket.
And then we also just have there's actually a place at the Seattle airport in the parking garage where you can do those app-based ride shares or car share things. And so you could just get off, go to that. There's signs everywhere that tell you where that location is, and order whatever app-based ride share you prefer to use, and they'll pick you up in that garage and take you straight downtown. And that's probably, I don't know, $40, I would say,
about 40
one way.
What was the name of the train you were talking about that takes about 40 minutes or so?
It's the Light Link rail is what it's called, and it takes off right from outside the airport. There's signs from the parking garage that kind of tell you where to get on, and you need to buy your ticket before getting on the train.
Okay.
And we're finally expanding, so now it can actually go to the University District too, which is super exciting.
It can actually take you up. So that's actually a good point, because Arti was mentioning Capitol Hill, and we were laughing about how it's uphill. Technically, you can take the Light Link from the Westlake Center, which is right by the conference center, to Capitol Hill, and get off in the main area where there's a lot of restaurants and bars and activities there. So that is an option if you don't feel like walking.
So it sounds like we're not going to be short of things to do while we're in Seattle visiting you guys.
No. Yeah. There's also, so music's a big scene in Seattle, and so you could definitely see the Adobe Collective, as you mentioned. Or Crocodile is a music venue. That was the first place Nirvana did their big show, right? Or their first show, I think. Anyways, that one's downtown, but there's a ton of Numos. There's a ton of spots where bands, not big and small, will have shows, and it's just a great way to kind of experience the nightlife in Seattle.
Basically, there's a lot to do.
There's a lot to do. We love the city.
Yes, if you
can't
tell.
Excited you guys are coming.
It sounds like that. It sounds like we're gonna have a good time while we're down there. We'll do some learning at the conference, but it looks like we're gonna explore quite a bit.
Yeah, we can give out Jimmy Beck's phone number if you're looking to take out.
He'll be up at all hours of the day. But we would definitely encourage you guys to make a trip out of it if you can. I know it's hard to get up to the Pacific Northwest, and it's a long trip for a lot of people, but it really is kind of the prime time to visit up here. And so if you're able to turn it into a little bit of an extended vacation with or without your family, it's definitely kind of the perfect time to be up here. So
yeah, and Vancouver and Portland are all within a 3-hour drive.
Yeah, and you can actually take the ferry to Victoria straight from Seattle, and you don't even need a car. So at least on our end,
you need a passport.
You do need a passport, yeah, which I tend to forget every time I go.
Well, I have to tell you, I really appreciate it. This was a lot to do. We went through all of it. Or not even all of it, a lot of it, but I really appreciate your all's time. Thank you very much. For those of you who are tuning in later or fast forward or whatever, we're here with Drs. Lynda, Ken, Arti, Desai, and Elena Griego, who are giving us all the information on what to do while you're in Seattle. Any final words before we, I guess, head out?
No, we're looking forward to seeing you guys at the conference.
Just pack a jacket. It's not like the Midwest where it stays really warm at night. It can get a little colder, so just bring a jacket or a sweater.
And don't be misled either. Bring sunglasses because it will be sunny in Seattle. Seattle is definitely the place where you potentially could use a raincoat, and less during the summer, but
and comfy shoes because there are a lot of hills to walk around.
I was looking this up before the show, and I found out that Pittsburgh this year has actually gotten more rain than Seattle, and last year as well.
Don't tell anybody that. The housing prices are going up.
All right, we're gonna head on out. I want to do a couple of acknowledgements. I want to thank our special guests again. Thank you all very much for joining us. I want to say thank you to Seattle Children's for letting us talk to all you wonderful hospitalists, and the UPMC Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh, the Paul C. Gaffney Division of Pediatric Hospital Medicine. Thank you to Megan Keene-Tarchichi. Helps me with everything. And we're going to exit you out on the podcast listening to the Adobe Collective again with their other song called Wanderlust. Again, it's the Adobe Collective. They're playing at the Connor Byrne Pub Saturday night, July 27th, and this is Wanderlust. And no one's paying me to say this. I'm just saying because it's one of our fellow hospitalist colleagues. We might as well give him a plug, and I'm going to go out and see him, so I'll see you all there. Thank you very much.
Watching in traffic lanes, getting nowhere fast. Out here, I'm in my brain, getting nowhere fast. The westward sprawl looked wide, now it's in the past. I hear it all the time.